She told him it was his, the baby, the future, the forgiveness. But one voicemail shattered that illusion. His wife had been sleeping with her boss, and the timeline of her business trip suddenly made sickening sense. Still reeling, he finds the hospital file and stares at the emergency contact, his own brother. Confused, he confronts him, but gets brushed off. Something's not right. Then he stumbles on a group chat hidden on a shared tablet. It's them, his wife, her boss, his brother, joking, planning, hiding. The betrayal wasn't just romantic. It was blood deep. And the worst part? His brother was named Godfather months before the baby was born. He bursts into the family dinner with screenshots in hand. But what he doesn't know is one of them recorded everything. The phone was still. Recording. Before we continue, do me a favor. Hit like and subscribe so you never miss what's next. It started like any other Thursday night. He was folding laundry on the couch while she packed for what she claimed was another weekend work retreat. She said it was a quarterly strategy reset with the team. Normal corporate stuff. She tossed her beige blouse into the suitcase, the same one he used to compliment her on, saying it made her look invincible during presentations. But this time, something about her movements felt rehearsed, controlled, off. She'd been laughing more at her phone lately. Not with him, not even near him. Just short, sharp laughs while staring into the screen like it had become her whole world. And she'd started locking her screen after every text. That was new. They used to read each other's messages out loud. Now she'd glance at him sideways if he even looked in the phone's direction. He told himself it was probably work stress, confidential projects, strict NDAs, but the excuses were starting to feel like bandages over bullet holes. She returned. From that weekend energized, too energized. Instead of looking drained like she usually did after those long workshops, she seemed invigorated. Her eyes met his directly, but it wasn't affection he saw in them. It was calculation, like she was watching for something, measuring his reactions. He tried to convince himself he was overthinking, letting paranoia feed off nothing. But then something concrete happened. While updating their shared calendar for an upcoming family barbecue, he noticed a strange gap. An entire weekend had been wiped clean, no events, no busy blocks, just gone. She'd deleted it. When he asked her casually, she smiled like it was nothing. Must have been a glitch, she said, waving it off. I'll re-add it later. He didn't believe her, but he let it go. Trust had been the cornerstone of their marriage, or at least he thought. It was. Later that night, she was telling him a story from the retreat. Some mishap with a hotel coffee machine that had everyone laughing. But then she said something that made his skin tighten. So Jason grabbed the cord and... She paused for a beat too long, I mean. Jordan, you haven't met him. New guy, Jason was her boss. Jason, who she had specifically told him wasn't attending the offsite. That night, sleep refused to come. He lay beside her in bed, her breath steady, her body still. But his heart raced. Jason's name echoed in his mind. The retreat, the deleted weekend. The glow in her eyes. By morning, he was still in turmoil. He hadn't touched her laptop in years, never felt the need to. But now, he moved to her desk, almost involuntarily, like something else was steering him. Her laptop was unlocked. He opened it. A maze of folders met him, most of them labeled with corporate jargon. But one folder was oddly placed, tucked inside a folder labeled Quarterly Reports. It was password protected. He hesitated. Then he typed Our Honeymoon 2020. It opened. Inside were photos, not team shots, not boardroom PowerPoints. These were mirror selfies, hotel room pictures, her in a white bathrobe, hair damp, wine glass in hand. But it wasn't just her reflection in the mirror. Jason was behind her, shirtless, smirking. The timestamps were damning. The photos had been taken 2 weekends ago, during the exact trip she claimed he hadn't attended. He stared at the screen, frozen. His chest felt like it had caved in. He wanted to confront her immediately, but something made him pause. He closed the laptop slowly and backed away, and then he saw it. Another calendar entry, one she hadn't deleted. Prenatal appointment. OBGYN, Dr. Renner. It was scheduled for next week. She hadn't told him anything about being pregnant. His breath caught. He reread the notification 3 times. Prenatal appointment. Not a work event, not even something easily mistaken. He sat down on the edge of the bed, laptop still open on the desk behind him. She was pregnant, and hadn't told him. And if the photos were anything to go by, the baby wasn't his. He didn't sleep that night, he barely moved. The next morning, she breezed through her routine like nothing had changed, kissed him on the cheek, left for work. But something had broken inside him. He wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. He needed more than a suspicion, more than selfies, because what if he was wrong, but then again, what if he wasn't? He stared at the prenatal appointment notification, his pulse pounding. Was she pregnant? And if she was it Jason's? He couldn't sit still. The house felt like a lie now. Each picture frame on the wall, each wedding photo on the mantel mocked him. He walked from room to room, his thoughts spiraling. The prenatal appointment was in 4 days. If she was pregnant, if it was Jason's, how long had she been planning to keep this from him? He needed proof, something undeniable, because if he confronted her now, she could spin it, gaslight him, cry, deny. She was good at that, twisting half-truths into whole realities. He needed more than photos. He needed voices, words, confessions. On Saturday morning, she left early for a team breakfast, her usual. He waited 20 minutes, then grabbed her spare work phone from the drawer where she sometimes forgot it. Locked. But the voicemail app didn't require a passcode. There were dozens of saved messages, mostly work-related. Co-workers rescheduling, meetings or confirming presentations, but one stuck out. It wasn't from a number saved in her contacts, it was short. 15 seconds. He pressed play. "Hey babe," a man's voice said, confident, casual. "Thanks for last night. That thing you did with the strawberries, dangerous. I'm still thinking about it. We'll talk about the baby stuff later, okay? I know it's complicated, but I want this. Us. I'll call you after the Monday meeting." The voice was unmistakable. Jason, he, dropped the phone. The words rang through his ears like a siren. The baby stuff. I want this. It wasn't just an affair. It was a fantasy she was building with another man. A parallel life. And she was trying to drag him into it, to raise a child that wasn't his in a marriage that wasn't real. His stomach twisted. He backed away from the counter, hands trembling. He couldn't breathe, couldn't think. But he wasn't done. Later, that night, when she was in the shower, he returned to her laptop. He opened her browser history, more corporate jargon, HR platforms, maternity leave policies. Then something caught his attention. A search. Legal requirements to add non-biological father to birth certificate. He froze. She wasn't just hiding. She was planning it, trying to make it legal, permanent, irreversible. That night he couldn't look at her. She crawled into bed, smelling of lavender and honey shampoo, and curled up beside him like nothing had changed. Like she wasn't building a future with someone else. Like she wasn't carrying a child that might belong to another man and expecting him to play along. Sunday came and went in a blur. She hummed while folding baby clothes she'd bought just in case. Blue onesies, pale green socks, a tiny stuffed elephant. When he asked why she hadn't told him anything, she looked surprised. "I was waiting for the right moment," she said, eyes wide. "I didn't want to scare him. She was already 4 months along. There was no heartbeat of trust left, just silence growing between them like a crack in glass. On Monday, she left for her doctor's appointment alone. He told her he had a work conflict. She didn't argue, but he followed her. He sat in his car across the street from the clinic, parked behind a delivery van. She entered alone, but didn't stay alone. 20 minutes later, Jason arrived, not rushing, not hiding, just strolling in like it was his appointment too. That was it. That was the nail in the coffin. He waited in the car, seething, every minute dragging like a lifetime. When they both exited, they didn't speak. Jason held the door for her. She smiled. He touched her lower back. They parted like lovers who knew they'd meet again soon. He didn't follow Jason. He didn't need to. He had everything he needed, except one thing. Why was his brother listed on the emergency contact? That detail had gnawed at him since he found the appointment invite. So that night, while she was distracted with a late video call, he opened her hospital folder on her laptop again. Dug deeper. There it was, a scanned intake form. In case of emergency, notify Benjamin Carter, brother-in-law, his own brother. He stared at the name, disbelief crashing through him like a wave. Benjamin had been distant lately, always busy, always not getting involved. He chalked it up to life. Now he saw it for what it was. Avoidance. Guilt. His breath came in shallow gasps. His hands clenched. Had Ben known? Had he helped cover it up? The next morning he drove to his brother's house without calling. Ben opened the door in sweatpants, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "What's going on?" Ben asked. "You tell me," he said, pushing past him. "You're listed as her emergency contact. You're her what? Her protector now." Ben's face shifted. A flicker of guilt, then a mask. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Ben hesitated, looked away. "I found out about Jason a while ago. She begged me not to say anything, said she was ending it, that it was over. She was scared. And the baby? I didn't know she was pregnant. Bullshit." Silence. "I didn't want to hurt you," Ben finally said, barely audible. "You already did," he replied, but something in his brother's body language didn't add up. The guilt was real, but it was heavier than just secrecy. He was hiding something else. Back home, he did the one thing he hadn't tried yet. He opened her tablet, the one she rarely used but always charged. It wasn't password protected. There, in her group chat app, was a thread titled "Re-Baby Plan 3 Members, Jason, his wife, Ben." The messages were weeks old, but they were all there. "Jason, we should keep this tight. He won't suspect anything if Ben backs her up. Ben, I'll do what I can, but I'm not comfortable with this." His wife, "Please, he trusts you more than anyone. Just until after the birth." Jason, "We'll take care of everything after. Just play the part." He stopped reading. His hands trembled. As he dropped the tablet, they hadn't just lied, they had conspired. He stared at the group chat, the names glaring back at him, his wife, her lover, his brother. And now, he wasn't just betrayed. He was outnumbered. The days that followed were a blur of silence. Not the calm kind. The kind that buzzed in the ears like a storm was waiting behind every word. She went on with her daily routines, grocery runs, prenatal yoga videos, late-night phone calls in the bathroom. He watched her from a distance, not as a husband, but as a man trying to piece together the collapse of everything he thought was real. She noticed the distance. "You've been quiet," she said one night while they were brushing their teeth. He looked at her through the mirror. Just tired. She didn't press. Maybe she was hoping the lie would hold a little longer. Maybe she was waiting until the baby arrived, when escape would be harder. Or maybe she knew. Knew he knew, and was buying time. That weekend, his mother hosted a family lunch. It was supposed to be a celebration, first grandchild on the way. He thought about skipping, but showing up would help keep the facade intact until he had all. The proof he needed. His brother was there. Ben greeted him like nothing had changed, smiling, casual, helping with the grill. When their mother stepped away, he cornered him near the garage. "You're unbelievable," he muttered under his breath. Ben didn't flinch. "We're not doing this here. You helped them. You lied to me. You protected him. I didn't want to be part of this. You already are." Their eyes locked. For a moment, something passed between them. Shame, fear, maybe even regret. But no apology. That was the last time he spoke to his brother. 2 days later, he received a letter in the mail. A mistake, clearly something she'd meant to intercept. It was from the hospital, a confirmation of her birth plan registration. He opened it. There, listed under expected attending and secondary contact, was not his name. Not even Ben's, it was Jason's. Jason's contact information, Jason's details, Jason's insurance. He stared at the paper, hands shaking. There it was. Ink on paper. Not only was Jason the father, he was being listed as the primary guardian. For delivery. But what broke him wasn't that. It was the section labeled child's name. First name, TBD. Last name, Carter. His last name. She was giving the child his name. He crumpled the paper in his fist and dropped it to the floor. This wasn't an affair anymore. This was identity theft, legacy theft. She was handing over another man's child with his family name and expecting him to raise it like it was born of love, not betrayal. That night, he confronted her. He waited until she had just finished her nightly herbal tea and was settling onto the couch with her feet up, calm, serene, almost glowing. He walked into the living room holding the paper. "You got a letter," he said. She turned. From the hospital. Must have gotten here before you could grab it." Her smile faded. He handed her the document. She didn't touch it, just stared. "I know everything," he said, voice low. "I saw the photos. I heard the voicemail. I found the group chat." Silence. Her mouth parted, but nothing came out. "You listed him as the emergency contact. You registered the child under my name. And my brother has been helping you lie." She looked down, then back up. Her face shifted. Not with guilt, but with calculation. "I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. "You weren't going to," he snapped. "You were going to trap me. Use me." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was scared. You and we weren't in a good place. And then it just happened. Jason, he wasn't supposed to mean anything. But when I found out I was pregnant, you decided to make it my problem." "No," she said. "I decided to keep the child safe, and you're a good man. You would have been a good father. Are a good man. I thought maybe we could make it work." He laughed bitterly. "You were going to raise his child with me and hope I never noticed?" She didn't answer. But the way her hand pressed against her stomach said enough. "I'm not signing anything," he said. "Not the birth certificate, not adoption papers, nothing." Her expression changed, sharp now. Cold. "Then you're walking away from me? From this child? From everything we built?" "We didn't build anything," he said. "You burned it to the ground." She stood. Her voice dropped to a whisper, calculated and crisp. "Fine. But if you walk away, I'll tell everyone you abandoned your pregnant wife. And don't think for a second Jason will raise this baby. He made that clear. You're the fallback." That word, fallback, stabbed him deeper than anything else. He walked out, not just from the room, from the house, from the life she tried to engineer out of deceit. The next day, he met with a lawyer, explained everything, the affair, the pregnancy, the forged identity on the registration, the emotional manipulation. He handed over printed screenshots of the group chat, the hospital letter and the voicemail audio file. The lawyer didn't even blink. "You're not listed as the biological father. She can't force you to claim paternity. But if she puts your name on the certificate and you don't challenge it, you could be held liable. Permanently, what do I do? You file a paternity challenge the day the child is born, and you get a DNA test immediately." He nodded. "And the brother?" The lawyer shrugged. "That's your personal decision. But if he conspired to falsify documents, he could be included in a fraud claim." Later that night back home, he packed a bag. She didn't stop him, just stood at the bottom of the stairs, watching him like he was walking out on something sacred. "You're going to regret this," she said. "No," he said without looking back. "You are." He left the house with one duffel and no plan. Just the truth, and finally a sliver of clarity. But one last detail was still missing. Something he hadn't found yet. Something about that group chat. A message he'd missed. So he checked the tablet again that night at the motel. There it was. A new message. "Sent just hours ago, Jason. We need to talk, he's onto us." And Ben slipped. Jason's message pulsed on the screen. Ben slipped. What had Ben said? And to who? He stared at the tablet screen long after the message stopped pulsing. Ben slipped. It was just 2 words, but they burned hotter than the rest of the betrayal combined. What did Jason mean? What had Ben said? More importantly, to whom? Had his brother grown a conscience, or was he spiraling too, trying to manage the wreckage of his own guilt? He didn't sleep that night. Just paced the motel room floor, replaying everything. The lie, the group chat, the threats, the birth certificate, his brother's face at the barbecue. By morning, he knew what he had to do. He called Ben, straight to voicemail. Then he texted, "I know you talked. Meet me. No drama. Just the truth." Today, he waited 6 hours. Nothing. At 4:27 p.m., his phone buzzed. "Ben, warehouse behind Dad's old shop. 6 p.m. Come alone." It was poetic, in a twisted way. The same warehouse where they used to build tree forts and paint bikes. Now it would hold whatever truth Ben had to offer, and maybe the final crack in a web built on years of lies. He got there early and waited in his car. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. A breeze kicked dust into the air. The place smelled like rust and memory. At 6:02, Ben arrived, no eye contact, just nodded and walked inside. He followed. The air inside was thick with the scent of oil and damp wood. The light through the broken windows painted jagged beams across the concrete floor. Ben leaned against an old workbench. "You came," he said quietly. "Cut the nostalgia," he replied. "What did you tell him?" Ben rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't mean to. I didn't say your name, but I told Jason I thought she was losing control. That maybe you were catching on." His jaw clenched. "You warned him. I was trying to protect you by helping him stay ahead of me." Ben looked at him finally. His eyes were bloodshot, rimmed with guilt. "I didn't want any of this, man." She pulled me in when she found out about the pregnancy. Said she was scared, that Jason wanted her to terminate. She said you'd be a better father than him. She used you, I know that now. He took a step closer. "So tell me everything now." Ben nodded slowly. The plan wasn't always this deep. At first, she just wanted to hide the affair. But once she found out she was pregnant, she panicked. Said Jason would leave her, that she couldn't face you alone, so she told him she'd convince you the baby was yours. But she knew she had to keep you close. That's when she brought me in. "Why you?" "Because she said you trusted me more than anyone." He laughed bitterly. "I used to. She asked me to back up her timeline. Say I was with her during one of the retreats, that I drove her to doctor's appointments, little stuff. At first I believed her. I thought maybe it really was yours and she was just scared. But then I saw the texts. From Jason. Photos, ultrasounds, plans. And you still didn't tell me. I froze, man. I didn't want to blow up your life." "You think this isn't blown up?" Ben looked at the floor. "I didn't know she was putting your name on the birth certificate. I didn't know about the insurance. I thought it was just damage control. So why tell Jason I was onto you?" Ben hesitated, because he was pushing her to go through with it. The fake certificate. The adoption. Everything. "I thought maybe if he knew you were catching on, he'd back off." He shook his head. "You're not just a pawn. You're part of this." Ben sighed. "There's one more thing." "What?" "She's recording everything. Calls, conversations, even voice memos. She's building a narrative in case you take legal action. She wants to paint you as unstable, abusive." The words hit like a gut punch. "What?" "She has a file. I saw it on her laptop. Labeled contingency. Audio clips. Edited to sound like fights, you yelling. It's fake but convincing." His hands curled into fists. "She's setting me up." Ben nodded. "I'm sorry, man. I really am." He turned to leave. "Wait," Ben said. "There's something else." "She's been talking to someone at your job." He froze. "What? She wants to tank your credibility. If you leave her, she wants to make sure you don't just lose the marriage. You lose everything." By the time he got back to the motel, it was dark. He sat in his car for a long time, staring at the steering wheel. Everything made sense now. The cold stares at work, the sudden review meeting, the strange HR email flagged for policy reminders. She was burning his life from every direction. He opened his laptop and began writing. A timeline, dates, screenshots, every voicemail, every photo, every chat log. He labeled every file, compiled every shred of truth. He'd bring it all to the lawyer tomorrow. But tonight, He needed to act. He called her. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said, all honey. "Open the door," he said. "What, I'm outside. We need to talk." A pause. Then, "Fine." She opened the door in a silk robe, her face blank. He walked past her without a word, headed straight for her laptop. She followed, confused, nervous. "What are you doing? I know about the contingency folder." She froze. "And I know about Jason, about Ben, about the certificate, the recordings, the lies." "You're being dramatic," she said quickly, shifting into defensive mode. "You're not thinking clearly." He turned. "You're going to delete those files tonight, or I'll walk straight into court with everything." Her eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." He stepped closer. "Try me." Silence. Then she turned, walked to her desk, and opened the laptop. Her fingers hovered over the mouse. "What happens after this?" she asked. "We separate quietly, no scandal, no press. You get your story. But I get my name back, and I never see you again. And the baby?" He looked away. "Not mine. Never was." As she clicked. To delete the folder, the screen froze. A remote user was accessing the files. And it wasn't him. The screen froze mid-click. A small pop-up appeared in the top right corner of her laptop. "Remote user connected. J Director." They both stared at the screen. Her hand hovered above the mouse. She wasn't breathing. "Is that—" He started. "Jason," she whispered. "He has remote access for work. I gave it to him." The room felt suddenly smaller. The whir of the laptop fan was the only sound. Then the cursor began to move, on its own, clicking through folders, navigating fast, too fast. He lunged for the laptop, slamming it shut. "You gave him access to your personal files? It was just for shared documents," she said. "I didn't think he'd—" "You didn't think he'd cover his tracks," he snapped. "He's wiping evidence. He knows we're onto him." She backed away, eyes wide, one hand protectively over her stomach. "He can't delete everything. I have backups. On the cloud." His pulse slowed, barely. "You better be right." He reopened the laptop, disconnected from Wi-Fi, and launched the backup software. The folder labeled Contingency was still intact, mirrored from the last sync. He copied everything to a flash drive. Photos, voicemails, audio clips, documents, screenshots. She sat down slowly, hands trembling. "What are you going to do?" "I already have a lawyer," he said. "Tomorrow we file. Then we go to HR. I'm not just divorcing you, I'm ending his career." She nodded almost numbly. "I never wanted it to go this far." He didn't respond. He didn't believe her. The next morning, he walked into his lawyer's office with the drive. Everything was ready. Legal affidavits, timeline exhibits, even a pre-filed paternity challenge to block his name from being placed on the child's birth certificate. The lawyer reviewed the files in silence. Then she looked up. "You've built a strong case. But this," she pointed to the group chat screenshots, "this could trigger workplace violations too." "You said he's her superior?" "Yes." "Good. Then we're not just dealing with paternity fraud. We're talking about HR misconduct, coercion, conflict of interest." He leaned back. "Will they fire him?" "Not if they can help it," she said. "But if this leaks, he's done." And that was the next step. He scheduled a confidential meeting with his company's HR director, Vanessa. When he walked into the office, her eyes showed surprise. "I heard you requested to speak about workplace retaliation." He nodded, sat down, plugged in the flash drive. 15 minutes later, she leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, face pale. "This is massive," she said. "He's been manipulating his subordinate, interfering in my personal life and preparing to weaponize her lies against me," he said. "If I didn't find this, I'd be signing a birth certificate by the end of next week." Vanessa sighed. "We'll need to launch an internal review. This involves legal and ethics. You may be called to testify." "Fine," he said, "as long as I'm cleared." "You will be." But he won't go down quietly. He stood up, ready to leave. She looked up. "One question. Why didn't you come to us sooner?" He paused. "Because I loved my wife." That night he returned to the house, not to stay, but to gather the rest of his things. She was sitting at the dining table, laptop open, surrounded by paper forms, baby names, nursery colors, a crumpled list of how to explain separation to a child. "Where are you going?" she asked softly. "Somewhere safe." "I told Jason you found out," she said, voice shaking. "He's angry good." She swallowed hard. "He said he wants to fix it, that he'll talk to you." He turned. He had his chance. "Now he can talk to my lawyer." She looked exhausted. "I just didn't want to raise the baby alone." "You're not alone. You have him." "And my brother." Her eyes flicked up. "Your brother hasn't answered my calls. Maybe his conscience finally caught up." He gathered the last of his things into a bag, documents, chargers, an old family photo. On the way out, he stopped, looked at her one final time. "You planned to build a lie. You knew it wasn't mine. But you wanted my name, my money, my help. What you never wanted was the truth." She didn't respond. 3 days passed. HR had placed Jason on administrative leave. A quiet internal investigation was underway. Ben sent him one final message. "Ben, I told the truth. I backed your claim. I'm done with her too." That was enough closure for now. Then the phone rang. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail. He played it back a minute later. It was Jason. "You think you won, but you don't know the whole story. She wasn't the only one keeping secrets. Check your storage unit, back left corner. Then let's talk." The line went dead. He stared at the screen. Storage unit? Back left corner? What was Jason hiding? He drove straight to the unit, unlocked it, pulled aside boxes of winter clothes. There, tucked behind an old crib, a sealed manila envelope. His name was written on the front. In Jason's handwriting, he stared at the manila envelope. His name written in tight, slanted handwriting. To Carter. Read alone. The warehouse-style lights buzzed faintly above. Dust hung in the air. He hadn't stepped into this storage unit in years, not since before the marriage began to rot. And now, here he was, standing before a piece of paper that promised to change everything, again. He tore it open. Inside was a thick stack of documents, a flash drive, a handwritten letter. He unfolded the letter first. It started without a greeting. "You think you know everything. You don't. She was lying to both of us." He blinked. Read on. "I never wanted the baby, I made that clear. She said you were weak, desperate for a family. She said if she could convince you it was yours, she'd finally be free of me and secure with someone stable. That was the plan. But then she got sloppy, emotional, started telling me you were getting suspicious, said she needed my help to nail it down. That's when I backed out. I told her I wasn't signing anything, wasn't playing dad. She didn't take it well. But there's more. The baby might not be mine either." His heart stuttered. He looked at the flash drive. No way. He rushed home, plugged the drive into his laptop, and opened the only file. Record truth move. It was a hidden camera video, low angle, grainy, but clear. She was in the living room, crying. Talking to someone on speakerphone, Ben's voice, she whispered. "Jason's out, he's not going to play along." Ben said, "Then what now?" She wiped her eyes. "We keep it moving. We say it's Jason's baby. Let Carter believe that. It's cleaner. He'll still walk if he thinks it's Jason's." Ben paused. "You mean it's not Jason's?" "No," she said. "It's yours." Silence. Then, "You're sure?" "I'm sure." He slammed the laptop shut. The baby wasn't Jason's. It was Ben's, his own brother. He didn't cry, he didn't yell, there was nothing left to break, just silence. The next morning he called his lawyer. "I want the paternity test filed the moment the baby is born." "We're ready," she said. "You've got everything documented. If it's not yours, she can't make a claim. It's not mine," he said. "But it's not Jason's either." She paused. "Then who, my brother?" "Jesus." "Yeah, he didn't call Ben. He didn't confront her. He didn't need to. He let them both sit with the weight of the silence. Let them guess how much he knew. The investigation at work wrapped within 2 weeks. Jason was terminated, quietly. HR offered a non-disclosure clause and a settlement. He refused the settlement. He wanted the record clear. They issued a formal apology. His reputation was restored. She gave birth 3 weeks later. He didn't show up at the hospital. 2 days later, he was served a petition, her attempt to legally assign him as the father retroactively. His lawyer filed the DNA results. It came back negative. He wasn't the father. It took 4 months for the court to finalize the separation. The paternity denial protected him from child support. She moved in with a cousin. Ben was nowhere to be found. Rumor had it he'd moved to Arizona. Good. Let them build a life out of ruins if they could. He sold the house, changed his number, closed the storage unit. Then, quietly, he began again. He started hiking again, reading, taking photos, real ones, not filtered lies or selfies hiding a second life, just moments that felt true. One day, months later, he got a letter. No return address, handwritten. "I'm sorry, I really am. I didn't know how broken I was until I tried to fix it using you. I see now what I did. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know. The baby looks like him. Your brother. There's no denying it now. I'm not asking you to care. I just didn't want you to wonder." He folded the letter once, then again, then slid it into a drawer and never opened it again. A year passed, then another. Sometimes people would ask if he had kids. He'd smile and say, "Not yet." But deep down he knew. He'd already been a father. Not to a child, but to the truth, to himself. Because real fatherhood, real manhood, wasn't about blood. It was about boundaries, about choosing truth over fantasy and walking away when love became a lie. He wasn't a father, but for the first time in years, he finally felt like a man again.